Welcome back to our circle of healing and recovery. The elders say it's important for us to practice silence. They say, whenever we get together as a group or as an individual, we should start by being still. I want you to take the next 2 minutes to get quiet and say a prayer to our Creator and ask Him to put words and thoughts in your mind which will help you focus.
Welcome back to our series on our recovery process and our journey through the steps. But it seems to me that up till now we've been doing a lot of talking of background about the steps. Why would you work the steps? What might happen if you work the steps? How do you connect up principles and values and Native American spiritual concepts, teachings of the medicine wheel with the steps? But let's now get serious about talking about the steps. Let's talk about step one in some amount of depth. So first, where do we get the information to talk about this step in depth? Well, we said earlier that we're referencing back to a book called Alcoholics Anonymous, which was the original foundation text of the recovery movement. This little book, which is called the Big Book. I always laugh when I hold one this size up and call it a big book. They come in a variety of sizes, but the content is the same. So I'll be referring in here, and in your workbooks you have specific instructions on where step one can be found in this book. So I believe it says, study the Big Book from the preface through page 43. It was the first thing in your workbook about step one. Well, what's in this book, this original foundation text of recovery? Let's take a little speedy tour here. It says, the story of how many thousands of men and women have recovered from, in this case it says alcoholism, but this is a text about recovery. So if alcoholism doesn't happen to be the problem that you are in recovery for, we believe that this text still has good instructions on the recovery process, and that other recovery texts for the other fellowships that, other than Alcoholics Anonymous, have a foundation built in this. So I always think about this like a tree that's been growing and growing, and every branch that comes out of this is just another branch of the recovery tree. And that somehow this book, that this first 100 people took the time to document, is like the taproot of that tree of recovery. So one of my little hints I always like to give people is, if we're in this worldwide recovery community, one thing we could do for each other would be to help each other in recovery. And so with these workshops, we have targeted them at anyone who is using the 12-step recovery process, and we would like to support each other as we go along. So again, in here, a quick trip through this book. It's got a table of contents. It's got a preface talking about how the book came about, and the forward to the first edition, forward to the second edition. Am I going fast enough for you? Then there's forward to the third edition, and then it comes into more content, the doctor's opinion. And this is about the allergy notion, the concept of addiction and allergy. There's a whole lot of interesting things in here. Regardless of what the addiction or reason that you ended up in recovery, there's information here that you might find very valuable as a foundation for this first step. So after the doctor's opinion, there's a chapter called Bill's Story. And that's one of the founding members of the original 12-step recovery fellowship, story about his life and how he found recovery and how through service work that, combined with another founder, started the whole 12-step recovery movement. Then there's a piece in here, this is perhaps my favorite part in the early part of this book, chapter 2. There is a solution. There is a solution. Imagine that. Because there was a time when I didn't know that. That all I knew was that I had a repetitive pattern of thinking and doing things that were causing harm in my life and in the lives of others. And there didn't seem to be any way to break out of it. There was no way out of this cycle. But what I found in this book was a declaration. There is a solution. Well, that's good news. Could you tell me more about it, please? Well, yes, we could. In fact, we've got whole chapter on that in here about what this solution is. And then there's more about alcoholism, and I would say for people who are using this for problems other than alcoholism, look for the similarities. More about addiction, more about the cycle of repetitive, circular, destructive thinking and behavior, and how we might choose to break out of that, or what tools we might have to break out of that. And that takes us through page 43. So that's the first piece of this, is a reading exercise. And as we talk about finding the instructions in this original foundation text for recovery, we'll always talk about what to read and what to do. And frequently we'll talk about, and what was that experience like if you've done that? So you have a beginning, a middle, and an ending to the work of each step. And you know exactly where you are, what's going on with that step, where you are in the recovery process. So this step says, we admitted we were powerless over. And because this is for all fellowships, we've left that over what? Blank. Fill in the blank. The first half of this is about powerlessness. So read these first pages, and then we have an exercise to do on powerlessness, and then we'll have an exercise to do about unmanageability. There are two parts to this step. So I'll go on with the instructions first, and then we'll come to the individual exercises. So the second half of this step is that our lives had become unmanageable. That our lives had become unmanageable. And how would we know that? How would we have evidence of that? Well, there's a paragraph in this book on page 52 that we've been taught over the years to use to look at this unmanageability piece. And it reads like this. We had to ask ourselves why we shouldn't apply to our human problems the same readiness to change our point of view. We were having trouble with personal relationships. We couldn't control our emotional natures. We were a prey to misery and depression. We couldn't make a living. We had a feeling of uselessness. We were full of fear. We were unhappy. We couldn't seem to be of real help to others. We turned these declarations into questions, and those become the means of inspecting the patterns of our life, patterns of habits, attitudes, beliefs, expectations, and outcomes that are present in our life right now that demonstrate whether our life is manageable or unmanageable. And so now we'll talk about the work of these. Where do you find the work? Well, the 9 questions now are we having trouble with personal relationships? Are we prey to misery? They're all in your workbook. And we'll be talking about these in more detail. So let's start with unmanageability and a little mind mapping exercise. So first, before we start mind mapping, let me have a little discussion around a technique called mind mapping. And what we're going to be looking for here is we'll put a circle in the center, and the topic will be in the circle. So in your book, you'll find a page that has a circle called Powerless Over Alcohol or Drugs. And you can fill in the blanks. But we recommend using mind mapping as a technique just because it helps us get access to a lot more information faster in a sort of free associative method. So we use keywords, pictures, images as a means of pulling forth from ourselves information in a very rapid fire method. So you would take the topic at the center, in this case it's powerlessness over. And then you would start, how does it manifest itself? How do I know powerlessness when I see it? Well, I choose to stop drinking, but I don't stop drinking. So I am powerless over drinking. What is that like? It's daily. In fact, it's all the time. and I feel hopeless, and I can't break the pattern. So you just start branching off of these threads of thoughts, images, pictures. So instead of putting the word drinking, you could put a bottle here. Right? Pictures work better for you. Whatever brings the information forward. So, okay, if my problem was drinking or food or controlling teenagers or whatever it is, I start building these branches. Now, it also manifests itself in other ways, I find. I also can't control my moods. My moods, so they just sort of come up. And the next thing I know, I'm sitting someplace doing what I said I wasn't going to do. Right? Now, how did that happen? I didn't intend to do that, but I'm doing it again. Here I am. I'm powerless over the pattern of addictive thinking and behavior. Well, what is that pattern? Well, a pattern is I'm doing just fine, and then suddenly I get irritable, and I pick a fight. With who? With my spouse. What's the next thing that happens? Well, I'm down the liquor store, or I'm down at the Haagen-Dazs counter, or I've got 6 gallons of Ben & Jerry's in my hand, and I didn't intend to do that, right? Whatever it is. So we're looking for just mapping out powerlessness, and you can build on this yourself. So what this does for us, when we pull this information up like this, rapid fire, it's almost sometimes like someone has just kicked us in the stomach. And we think, oh, I didn't want to see this. I didn't want to feel this. I wanted to pretend that this wasn't my life. This was somebody else. Well, when we're working the steps, we're looking for the facts. Just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. And the fact is, this is my life. This is the state of affairs. I am thinking and behaving this way. And it's causing damage in a variety of areas of my life. Right? And it feels like that. Good. You're having a good first step if you get that feeling like someone kicked you in the stomach when you're mapping out your powerlessness. Good. Have some more. But don't wallow in this. Get enough so you can admit to yourself that you are powerless over your addictive thinking and behavior. That's the primary thing we're looking for here at the first pass through the steps at least. Later on, you'll be looking for, and other places where you're powerless too, even though you're no longer actively working on your addiction, it's showing up in other areas of your life. You're still manifesting powerlessness and some kind of crazy behavior. So once you get that kind of kick in the stomach, and you see, you don't live there. This is not about getting down and kicking yourself forever. It's a means of motivating ourselves to have the desire to change. Why would we change if everything was going well? So we got enough information here about our life to want to change. And then we go looking for more information. This looks a lot like 9 dots, doesn't it? Well, it's 9 areas of our lives that we're going to go looking for. Where is unmanageability manifesting itself in my life? Not in someone else's life, in my life. So what are these areas? Well, we've got personal relationships, control over our emotions, prey to misery and depression, making a living, feelings of uselessness, full of fear, being of service to others. And again, they're all in your workbooks, these 9 areas. And what these are triggers to cause you to go create mind maps in each of these 9 areas. And a method that we like to use in order to gather this information is, we call it the sort of get in the helicopter exercise. So if you were out in the middle of the ocean and there was 9 islands, they just happen to have these same 9 names, and there was a helicopter, and you just climb in the helicopter and go hover over the top of this island and have a little inspection tour, and you're going to jot down notes. So here I am. I'm up in a helicopter. What am I looking for? I'm on directly above the island called personal relationships. What am I looking for? Well, I'm looking for how is Wayne doing in personal relationships. Am I kind, gentle, loving, support him? Or am I an arrogant, self-centered SOB, creating havoc in everybody's life and thinking I'm the center of the universe? What is it that I'm thinking and doing in personal relationships on this little island down here below my helicopter? And I'm jotting down notes in either structured form, longhand, sentences, paragraphs. Mind maps doesn't matter. The mind maps are meant to be a tool for making this easier. If you find them cumbersome, do it another way. Write it out longhand. That's the way we used to do it anyhow. So whatever works for you. But capture the information on what is going on with yourself in personal relationships. You're looking for patterns of habits, attitudes, beliefs, and expectations that are causing your life to not be the way you'd like it to be. When you've got that information, pull the stick on the helicopter, move over one island. Let's look at making a living. Let's look at misery. Let's look at depression. Let's look at feelings of uselessness. Let's look at service to others. So you go around these islands one at a time. And you're building up a picture of the unmanageability in your life. You're not at this stage looking for all the things that are going great in your life. You're looking for things that are causing chaos in your life. So as this builds, that start to get the need. Someone got some indigestion tablets around here? Boy, this is not, I'm not feeling real comfortable looking at all this stuff. Can I look at someone else, please? And you need to talk to yourself and say, no, I think I'll just stick with this exercise. These are the instructions. It's my islands. It's my life I'm supposed to look at. If I need to take some Rolaids or some Tagamin, I'll take some. But I'm going to continue to do this exercise because this is information that may just save my life. And so what's holding me back from having a better life anyhow? Patterns of habits, attitudes, beliefs, expectations that I am acting out on in a variety of different areas of my life. And the results aren't that good, and sometimes they even stink a lot. So when I'm coming out of this, I might feel bad. And I think, can this really be who I am? Is this what my life is about? And the answer is yes. This is you. You've done a reasonably accurate assessment. But it's just information to build on. If you're getting the little bit of hit, that sort of feeling of, I'd rather run than do this, keep doing it anyhow, and because it'll give you the foundation to build your recovery on, or to build the next level of your recovery on. So this whole process now, we've read the instructions out of the Foundation Text for Recovery, from the front cover to page 43. We've looked at the paragraph on page 52. We've gone in and we've captured information about what we're powerless over and how it's manifesting itself in our life, and felt it. We've then gone and looked at these 9 islands of our life to find out what unmanageability looks like up close and personal in our life, and felt it. And we're really feeling like crap about now. Good. You're just about ready to graduate from the first step. You've got the right information, the right kind of feeling. Why would you want to change if you didn't feel like this? If you were feeling wonderful about how your life's going, why would you need a change process? You certainly wouldn't need to spend this amount of time in a workshop like this if life was going wonderful. But we're here. We're here because, as Don talked about the cycle of life and those stages of development, some of us didn't navigate that course so well. And because we didn't navigate that course so well, it's manifested itself in breaking out in funny thinking and behavior, which frequently shows up as addictive patterns of thinking and behavior, and chaos in our lives and in the lives of other people around us. Here's our opportunity to use that information, this wreckage that we've created, to build a new life on. So observe ourselves in action in these 9 islands. Write it down as fast as the information will come, using mind maps or not, whatever suits you. And feel the unmanageability, feel the powerlessness. If you've got that, you've got a good first step. And so I think we'll now close out this session. And in the next section, we'll be talking about how to find the instructions and how to work those instructions for the second step.
Now is a good time to utilize a talking circle with your group. Focus on a subject which was discussed on the tape. If those bad words come, let them come in one ear and go out the other. Never let them come out of your mouth. If a bad word comes in your ear and then comes out of your mouth, it will go someplace and hurt somebody. If you do that, that hurt will come back twice as hard on yourself. Black Elk, Lakota.